From the front lines of the information war, it's Alex Jones.
We are live at 3:35 Central Standard Time. Thank you so much for joining us. We are 4 hours, 25 minutes into live transmission as Chernobyl 2 unfolds in the middle of populated Japan as the evacuations accelerate from Tokyo, about 150 kilometers south of the Fukushima 6-reactor crisis, with 4 reactors melting down, 1 core containment facility breached. Reuters AP reporting as of this morning, more fires, more insanity. And the calls are pouring in from people that have called different government agencies that say, yes, they're preparing on the West Coast. We're going to call a federal agency here in a moment live on air. But Salem in Illinois says that he worked in the Japanese reactor or another Mark I.
I worked at the Fukushima plant.
Really?
Yes, I worked there in May of 2009. I'm American. I live here in America. Spent about 3 weeks there.
Yeah, for those that don't know, they're General Electric built, so it's a lot of Americans there.
Well, actually, I'll say I've worked at a lot of nuclear plants, and what a lot of these plants do is they buy units from several different manufacturers. Siemens, Westinghouse, GE, Toshiba, Mitsubishi, or the old Alice Chalmers, which they're out of business now. Anyway, I worked on Unit 6, which is a Toshiba unit. It's actually shut down for inspection at the time of the earthquake. This is one of the largest, it was definitely the largest plant I've ever been to. I was completely in awe working there. It was so huge, it was like a small city. And nuclear plants are like little kingdoms in themselves, and they have all their own little systems and units and rules, as well as the federal and international rules that overlay them. But they all have their own little training facilities and seminars, which, I had to go through. I did not work in containment. I worked on the turbine deck as an on-site machinist, and that's my specialty. I basically machine things that are too big to move. This is, I think, the 3rd largest plant in Japan. And something interesting, there's way more people employed there than needs to be. The Japanese people are very sensitive to nuclear power ever since the bomb, obviously, from World War II.
So they do it as a payoff.
Yes, right. They try to gain favor with the communities and just add a little bias, and they just give them a great wage, and they basically do nothing. In fact, I even pointed out to my coworker when I was there, I pointed at these 3 guys who were actually pushing an empty cart. There was 3 guys, and all 3 of them had one hand on this empty cart as they were going across the turbine deck. And you can just see that there's people there that they don't need to be there. And right now, I know that I think over 100 people have high dosages of radiation.
Yeah, that was 2 days ago. It's off the charts.
Who really knows?
It's like they say 10,000 have died total, but they admit 10,000 are missing from one fishing village.
Oh, I just mean at this one plant.
No, I understand. Yeah, they're talking about, but now it's correct. The Mark I with the plutonium in it that blew up yesterday so spectacularly, that is a General Electric.
I believe that's a GE unit. Yeah. Now, the reactor doesn't necessarily have to match the...
Let me ask you a question. You've been there.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister's been for a day and a half ordering them back. Reportedly, the workers won't go back. They said there were 500. Now they're gone.
I don't blame them. Well, I do know one of my friends...
Let me ask you this. Watching all these giant explosions and what you see happening there, what do you think it looks like on the ground?
Oh, my gosh. You know, those walls, those outer shell walls, and they are absolutely enormous. That stuff is thick, and they are designed, and I worked at a plant, Turkey Point Nuclear in Florida, where they actually had to cut a hole in it to bring the reactor out with a giant crane, and you can see how thick that wall is. It's designed to be hit with an airplane.
747.
Yeah, and now I don't know if Japan's is that way. I would assume so, especially being coastal like that. Actually, just a few weeks before I was there, North Korea had lobbed a missile over Japan, and it splashed off the coast. And within minutes, the Japanese carrier was out there immediately, and it was visible from the shore. But let's see, what was I going to say?
What other intel can you give us about the Fukushima plant?
Well, it's huge. I do know that a lot of the people who need to be there can't be there. And one of my friends I'm conversing with over the internet, he's actually in Yokohama. He's an engineer there. I worked with him, and he can't even get on site because all of the railroads are down. they're all just shut down. The infrastructure's messed up. He can obviously get online. He's in Yokohama. He can't get into the office. And at this point,
there's a massive earthquake still ongoing, aftershocks, 9.1. Right. A lot of the rail lines down. And how many people are in Tokyo? 9 million?
Oh, I was in Tokyo. I don't remember that statistic.
In fact, you guys found the statistics. It's over 500 above ground tests that have gone on. But let's pull up the population of Tokyo. Can you imagine if even a fraction of them try to flee south, as is now being reported by AP and others? Can you imagine what that is going to look like with the infrastructure already in shambles?
Right. I can imagine Chicago trying to do such a thing and having difficulty here in the States. And that country is so tightly compacted. The roads are not as wide as ours. You know, the cars are smaller. I know that Japan, under treaty, is not allowed to have nuclear weaponry, and it would surprise me. And as I talked to their engineers, and in fact, my escort there, he actually had met the Queen of England, you know, so he was a pretty important person. And, you know, in talking to him, they were so proud of these plants, and I thought, you know, this is amazing that you would put, so there's 6 units out there. They're actually building 2 more currently. And, you know, they don't see an end to this. It's almost like since they're restricted from making weaponry, they're kind of showing off with their, you know, nuclear capabilities. I just wouldn't build, obviously they shouldn't be doing this. One reactor after another is like you know, just a chain reaction domino effect blowing up. You know, my point about those walls being so thick, if those bricks are being blown everywhere like that, you know, like what we saw in that video, I mean, I can just imagine the damage that's doing to everything all around there. I mean,
well, think about it shooting thousands of feet in the air in a matter of seconds. The explosive power was incredible. Of course it was going to expose the containment core, which they now admit has happened at 2, perhaps at 4. We have the numbers to give people an idea. There are 37+ million people in Tokyo Metro, 8.5 in the city limits. Can you imagine if even 10% of 37 million try to get out of the city, and reportedly it is just bedlam?
Yeah. Oh, it'll be wild. In fact, I haven't talked to my engineer friend in 2 days. He hasn't responded, so I think he might actually be on the move. I know a lot of different airlines are refusing to fly into Tokyo right now. There's another interesting thing. I know that the Japanese people are very tightly knit, very brave. I had a great time being out there. They took me out to dinner every night, lots of drinks, had a good time. The culture is just really cool. I had an awesome time, and I stayed up in that northeastern area, and the people were so good, and everybody's got their own home garden. They're just very independent-style people. Don't own weapons. They can't, you know. Actually, I bought a 450-year-old spear I brought home from there, authentic. That was pretty cool. But the Japanese military, now they all have it ingrained in their minds that their life ends at 24. They are ready to die for their country, and at any cost. And I just think that is somewhat permeated into the culture. There could be a bravery, you know, braveness in the people to want to get in there and do their work at the Fukushima plant and get this under control. I know that the plant is.
But how do you do that when there's giant explosions going off everywhere?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? I put myself in that position, and I think about America, and if I was working at the plant, it was like, look, this thing could blow and we could lose, you know, the whole half the continent. You know, I would put on that suit and go in there and do what I could do, and knowing that I would die.
Why do you think the Prime Minister is trying to, quote, order them back in?
Well, I guess I don't know about that. Maybe they don't want
to. From what we get, and no one denies the Japanese are, you know, extremely brave folks. That's part of the culture.
Yeah.
You know, they sent awards to the Alamo. There's a big Japanese award out at the Alamo for, you know, them standing and dying. They, you know, they love that stuff. Very romantic. But the point is that from what I get is it's the Tokyo Power and Electric isn't coordinating things, is what the Prime Minister says, and so things are just exploding. I mean, that explosion of Reactor 3 yesterday, I mean, the whole facility had stuff flying all over it.
Yeah, it was felt 25 miles away on the ground.
Yeah, so, I mean, what do you expect? It sounds like there's really nothing they even can do. That's why they're trying to use helicopters to go in over it right now. Well, sir, really informative phone call. Anything else you can add for us, Salem?
No, we just do need to pray. I mean, we can see that human systems fail. All human systems failed. I mean, I do believe, you know, God is sovereign. He's in control, and we just pray that all these people's lives individually get touched, and they can, connect to the true meaning of life through it all and not be so dependent, no matter, Japan, one of the most complex countries in the world, we can see it just failing. So we can't put our faith in manned systems, and I think it's absolutely foolish to build plants of this many units, and I hope this kind of thing doesn't go on. Maybe they should start shutting down many of these multiple reactor units. But, hey, Alex, I know you're an artist. I'm actually a professional sculptor full-time, and I know you do oil paintings. So you've got any sculptural ideas I could kind of incorporate?
I never really have time to paint. I paint with my kids all the time, just little things. But I don't know, man. I'm sure you're a great artist. You've got your own ideas. But I appreciate your call, Salem. Very interesting. A lady called in who sounded very earnest, very focused, very informed. We confirmed it is the phone number for the Montgomery, Alabama Federal sub-agency that tests the air for and water for radiation. We're going to call them live on air right now because she said that they told her that, yes, they are deploying emergency nuclear fallout personnel to the West Coast right now as a precaution. That's important news because you're not seeing that in the media. The federal government's not even really debating it or discussing it. Is it a problem? Guys, can we go ahead and start dialing that number live on air right now, please? You can let them hear the dialing. It's fine. Here we go. We are calling them live on air. I may have gotten word. Sure.
You have reached the United States Environmental Protection Agency's National Air and Radiation Environmental Laboratory in Montgomery, Alabama. If you know the 4-digit extension of the person you are calling, you may dial it at any time. If you know the name of the person you are trying to reach, press 1 for dial by name. If you are calling concerning pollution or permitting within the state of Alabama, please call the Alabama Department of Environmental Management at 334...
Hit 0 for operator.